Way back in the spring of 1990, 10-year-old me was given a $5 allowance. In search of something to spend my money on, I came upon something fantastic at my local convenience store newsstand. It was then that I started a lifelong obsession with the gold standard of sequential art, the comic book. Now, as an old man, I have decided to open up some old boxes and dig into my comic book collection. I decided it's time for me to review and analyze the illustrations and artists that made me comics crazy. What's up, everybody? This is Chris Crazy House, and I'd like to welcome you all to another episode of Chris Crazy House Presents Comics Crazy. And today, we're going to be looking at The Incredible Hulk 378. This was a special Christmas story, and I figure since this is the holiday season, this would be an appropriate single comic to do. This is kind of like just a one-shot, so this is not a story that's continuing from somewhere else or it doesn't go anywhere. It's just all contained in this one issue here. And I remember very much so picking this up at the Quick Pick store. This is where I got most of my comic books at that time. I would be hanging out with my grandfather. He would go buy his newspaper and I would go over to the newsstand and buy some comic books. So this is one of the ones that I picked up. And also this is a filler issue with, if you remember when I was reviewing those Incredible Hulk comic books earlier this year, where we had the story of the Hulk kind of combining all three of his personalities. Well, this was the filler issue that came in between that story. So, and this one, I guess they were trying to give Dale Keown a little bit of a break and let him work on some of those other issues of the Incredible Hulk. And this has like a filler artist and filler inker, but a very fun issue nonetheless. And you can see on the cover here, it says in the captions, "Because you demanded it, the most requested villain of all." And if you don't know what they're talking about, it looks like the most requested villain of all is the Hulk fighting Santa Claus. Like Santa Claus is the most requested villain. But this is actually the Rhino in a Santa Claus outfit. So what we're getting in this story is from what the fans requested. They said during the whole time that the Great Hulk was there as the Incredible Hulk in the comics, they wanted to see the Great Hulk fight the Rhino in this book. So they finally gave the fans what they wanted, and they got the Rhino in this issue fighting the Hulk, but it's during Christmas time and the Rhino is dressed like Santa Claus. So we're going to be peeling this open and taking a look at this issue. It's a fun issue, well drawn, and it actually is pretty action-packed considering how silly it actually looks. But this cover is actually done pretty well. I appreciate this cover because it's an action-packed cover, even though it looks funny of, the Hulk fighting Santa Claus and Santa Claus holding a crowbar that he's trying to hit the Hulk with, and they're kind of flying over the mall, and you see the people kind of looking up at them. It's still a very competently done cover, well done, and it's just, like I said, a fun issue. I do really enjoy this, how a lot of the artists for the Hulk would kind of jumble up the title of the comic book. I think that looks cool when they do stuff like that, and you see like the letters of the Hulk kind of crumbling under the action of what's going on the cover here. So let's peel this open and take a look at this Incredible Hulk Christmas story. And speaking of the holidays, for those who want a great gift to give to someone you love for the holidays, you can go pick up my Naturally Cute Thoughts and Prayers notebook and planner. It is now available on Amazon and you can go pick it up. So it's a little over 200 pages. It's a dot planner, So, instead of just lines on the page, we have dots here, so you can design and write however you'd like. We have a few illustrations, original illustrations that are unique to this notebook. Just the women with their natural hair. I have some natural hair angels. So falling in line with the Naturally Cute series that I created as far as coloring books. But now I have a planner as well that you can buy, or you can call it a planner, notebook, or journal. And you can go pick this up at my Amazon store that is available now for all those to buy. And what I'll do is I'll put the link to go buy it in my description box as well as the comment section. Anyway, back to my review. So we open up here to the first page of this story. And as you can see, this book is actually a little beat up. I mean, I literally bought it from the newsstand in 1991. So it's a little beat up from, having it over the years. It was not a special issue, so I never put it in plastic. So it's a little beat up in the comic book collection, but still pretty decent. Okay. And we see that this story is written by Peter David, drawn by Bill Jaska, and inked by Jeff Albrecht. So these are the people that worked on it. And I think that's Glynis Oliver does the colors. So this is still in the newsprint era of comic books and the traditional way of doing art. And we see here that it opens up in a children's hospital. And this is actually a very well-drawn image. And I like the fact that they put the authors and the writers and the pencilers' names on the gift box here under the Christmas tree. And we see the kids fighting. It's actually done at a really good angle. So really good, a really well-drawn perspective image of this children's hospital. And, to start off a story like this, you got actually a really good splash page that you wouldn't think that you would see from like a children's hospital that would be normally a sad situation. Well, we got our character here, Rick Jones, and he's the one that's going to be telling us this Christmas tale as he visits the children's hospital, the pediatric ward. And everyone knows that Rick Jones is kind of like a celebrity in this universe because he is the best friend of the Hulk. He palled around also with Captain America, and he's gone into outer space, and he was Captain Marvel for a while. So he's been well known within the Marvel universe, one of the few human characters that's been through as much as the superheroes. So the regular people of this universe know him, and they see him as a celebrity because he also has a rock band. And he goes there to visit the kids and tell them some stories. And the story he's going to tell is of the Hulk fighting the Rhino at a mall. And we got the Rhino not doing too well during the holiday season. He's actually homeless at this point, living out there in a cardboard box, just kind of drinking some alcohol and sitting there in his Rhino suit and looking very sad. Every time he tries to talk to people, they wind up running away from him because they just feel he's a mean, evil supervillain. And, the Rhino can't take off his costume. That's one of the big things about his character. He's stuck in that costume. He can't take it off. So even if he wants to live a somewhat normal life, he can't because of the way people see him and fear him. And he says the sad part is he can't go hang out and just, talk about girls or whatever, or get a drink with some pals, because the only thing supervillains want to talk about is fighting superheroes or taking over the world. So he can't even have a normal conversation, and it's bugging him right now. I like this panel, just the way it's showcasing the anguish of the Rhino. And, this panel is actually very well done as well, as far as the perspective of him sitting here outside this cardboard box. And you can see the homeless people in the background and good perspective on these bricks here. So very competent pencil work done by Jaska in this book. And as the homeless people are running away from the Rhino, they wind up running directly into the Hulk. And he winds up scaring them away as, they see another great monster, and they're worried that their city is being invaded. But the Hulk just kind of screams at them, and they run off in a different direction. and the Hulk jumps back in the van with Rick Jones. And that's when the Rhino comes around the corner and he notices that the Hulk is there. And he's actually kind of feeling down about that too. Because like at first, the Rhino was like, you know what, I'm going to make myself feel better. I'm going to go rob a bank. But then he hears that the Hulk is in town. So he's like, damn, I can't even go rob a bank because the Hulk's just going to wind up beating me up. And I'm going to wind up in some sort of jail or prison again. I don't want to deal with that. So he's even more depressed. So the Rhino was going through it. He's not having a good time. It's the holiday season, but there's no happiness or jolliness to be had by the Rhino. I actually kind of feel bad for him right there. So the Rhino gets really sad and down. He tries to go out there just on the street and ask for some money, but every time someone sees him, they recognize him as a supervillain and they run in the opposite direction. That's when the Rhino notices the Salvation Army Santa, and he decides to jack Santa for his outfit. And that's exactly what he does. He takes the Salvation Army Santa's outfit and tosses the actual person in the dumpster. And, you know, him sitting out there with the bell, he notices he's actually starting to get some money as he's ringing his bell for the Salvation Army donations. And even so, one of the operators of this mall that the Rhino was standing outside of is saying that the mall Santa is actually sick, so they need a quick replacement for Santa Claus at the mall. So, you know, when the kids go and sit on Santa's lap and tell them what they want for Christmas, that's what the Rhino is doing right now. And at first, the Rhino is actually happy about this because he's actually getting some social acceptance. People can't see that he has the Rhino costume on right now, and people actually cheering for him. So he actually gets a little teary-eyed, the fact that people actually cheering for him at this point. So throughout all the cheers, the Rhino tries to go sit down in Santa's chair, and the Rhino is a big, strong, extremely heavyweight villain. So of course the chair just basically collapses, and he's sitting there kind of angry, and all the people that were just cheering for him are now laughing at him. So he's back to being a little bit more depressed at this point. So as he's sitting there, you know, the little bratty kids show up talking about how they want all these superhero toys and whatnot. And the Rhino tries to say, hey, wouldn't you want some supervillain toys? And of course the little kid doesn't. He says because the supervillains, they just get beat up all the time and they're dumb and ugly. So the Rhino was actually about to throw this little kid, which I thought was hilarious, by the way. But the mom comes in and thinks that what they're doing is they're going to take like a nice little picture together. So the mom steps in and snaps a picture, and that's when the little boy notices by grabbing Santa's hat that the Rhino's horn is under there. So he tries to tell his mom, but of course he's a little kid, so his mom doesn't believe him that there's a supervillain there. But Rick Jones, Bruce Banner, and the S.H.I.E.L.D. agent here, they hear this from the little kid, so they're actually on the prowl now looking for the Rhino. So now we got the more kids showing up asking for stuff for Santa, and the Rhino actually gets upset with this because he feels, you know, instead of asking for stuff or whining, they need to just go ahead and take it, because that's what supervillains do. And that's what he feels little kids should start doing. So you see how he mistreats these little kids. He kind of just yokes them up, yanks them around by their shirt, acting real rough with the kids. It's actually hilarious. This comic is not very serious, but it's drawn very well. It almost kind of reminds me of like if this were like an animated series, this is how the characters would look at this time. So now we cut to a scene in the mall bathroom. For those who don't know, the Gray Hulk would change into the Hulk because of the moon. So anytime it became nighttime and the moon would come up, that's what would cause him to change into the Hulk when he was the Gray Hulk. It had nothing to do with being angry. So Bruce knocks over some guy in the bathroom stall and runs in there, and we see him transforming into the Hulk. And as he fully transforms, he breaks open the stall door and comes out, tells the guy it's all yours, and throws the toilet paper at him. And we get back to more of the poor Rhino in his Santa outfit being harassed by these kids. One of the kids pokes him in the eye, snatches off his beard, and tries to expose him as being the Rhino and a supervillain. He says, hey, I bet you're a supervillain because you're a supervillain. All the supervillains are big, dumb, and ugly. And no one's bigger or dumber or uglier than you. So the Rhino he's pissed off now. And this little brat's kicking him in the leg. So he literally grabs the kid by the shirt and throws him across the mall, which is, once again, hilarious to me. Anytime you can have a funny scene where a supervillain beating up some kids, that makes me laugh because I have a very strange sense of humor. But the kid is saved by the Hulk, and the Hulk decides to jump into the action and fight the Rhino. So this is where the real action of the story begins, and it starts off with the Rhino charging the Hulk, knocking him through some stores, and he tries to come down on the Hulk with a double axe handle, but the Hulk winds up just putting his foot up and kicking the Rhino right where the sun don't shine. And they're really doing a lot of damage, obviously, because these are two big dudes, a big villain and a big hero, and they're tearing stuff up in this store, you know, tearing up comic book shops, toy shops, and everything else all through the mall. Now, this one lady who's giving out cookie samples at the mall actually gets them to stop fighting for a minute to try some of her cookies. And she gives the Rhino a macadamia nut cookie. And, of course, he hates macadamia nuts, and he tries to kill the lady. Once again, more comedy. You know, stuff like this is funny to me, seeing him get so upset and so mad over something as simple and mundane as a cookie. And that's what starts the fight over again. So, click here to them both falling from the top of the second floor of the mall. They go into the bowling alley and fight. The Hulk winds up throwing some bowling balls at the Rhino, causing like a Looney Tunes type situation where the Rhino is slipping on the bowling balls and winds up flying through a window. And we have our S.H.I.E.L.D. agent here trying to arrest the Rhino, but, you know, when you're a superpowered villain, a regular old S.H.I.E.L.D. agent with a gun is not going to scare you. We got an old ad here for the classic Silver Surfer game that came out for the Nintendo, one of the hardest video games ever to come out during that time, and one of the most annoying video games that ever came out during that time. I still remember this ad, though. This ad is pretty classic, and it made me want to play the game, but once you play the game, you regret playing it every time, because it's not, it is not easy at all. It's one of the more difficult games to ever play from that era. So we see here that this S.H.I.E.L.D. agent is about to get the beats by Rhino, and even with Rick Jones trying to get in there and swing a stick at the Rhino, it's not working, and the Rhino is basically going to do some serious damage to this guy. But before he can, that's when the Hulk shows up, taps the Rhino on the shoulder, and we see that the Hulk has stolen the Santa hat and the beard, and he proceeds to use that as a funny gimmick to start beating up the Rhino. And he uses his hands and knocks the Rhino across the room. Very well done panel work here. It's simple, but well done. And you get a great sense of the action here. And as the Rhino flies into the wall, the Hulk jumps in the air and jumps on top of him. And they're doing lots of damage. You know, they're going through walls, flying through stores. You know, the Rhino actually does manage to ram his horn into the Hulk. So this is a way of showcasing somewhat of a violent image without being gratuitous or gruesome with the violence. But the Hulk is basically getting stabbed by the Rhino's horn. So this is just a way of showing it without showing the gore involved in that. And you see the Hulk is down here in pain, and that, you know, the Rhino has taken back his Santa hat and his beard, and he's going to do some serious damage to the Hulk while he's on the ground. But right before he can, a little girl shows up. A little girl, she's very sad that she sees Santa beating up what she probably thinks is an elf, and she's about to start crying and thinking that, you know, there really is no true Christmas spirit or holiday spirit. And that's when the Hulk and the Rhino decide that they're going to, you know, call it quits on the fight and save this little girl's image of Christmas by being nice to each other. And of course, that's what they decide to do. They decide to finish out the listening to the kids like gift wishes for Christmas, working together. And the Hulk puts on another little hat, and the Rhino gets his Santa outfit on, and they listen to all the little bratty kids for what they want for Christmas. And they decide to be nice, all for the kids' sake. So if nothing else, these guys will be nice for the babies. You know, they say Wu-Tang is for the children, but it looks like the Hulk and the Rhino are for the children as well. And the Hulk does get some benefits from it, because you got the sexy MILF here feeling on the Hulk's muscles. So he feels like he's coming out on top at least some way, right? So that was the end of this little story that Rick Jones is telling at the hospital. And we think that the kids have gotten the whole point of the story, but these kids are still just as mean and bad as they ever were. One kicks Rick Jones in the leg, and they're all making faces at him and giving each other a high five. And poor Rick Jones is hopping on one leg saying, "I'm going back to dodging supervillains. It's safer." So that is the end of this merry, Incredible Hulk Christmas story. I hope you all enjoyed it. I hope you all have a happy holiday, no matter what you celebrate. If you celebrate Christmas, Hanukkah, or Kwanzaa, I hope you all have a safe time. If you don't celebrate the holidays, just still be safe. Stay warm. You know, in my area, it's very cold right now, and I don't know if it's going to snow or what, but I'm going to do my best to just stay inside, stay warm, and chill out and hang out with my family. And I hope you all can do the same. So thank you all for joining me here on Chris Crazy House Presents Comics Crazy, and I wish you all the best in the holidays and off into the new year. And make sure you go ahead and like this video, subscribe to this channel for when I upload any more comic book reviews or artwork, and make sure you go ahead and share it with anyone who will enjoy this type of content. Anyway, folks, this is Chris Crazy House signing out. Peace.